All right, so today we are here with Fabiola Bowers talking about everything that you don't know that you probably should about tollways, right? She is traffic and incident manager at the Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority. She's been there for 14 plus years. Before that, she was in telecommunications with the police department. She's always volunteering. She was a Meals on Wheels driver. She works with the Caring Place in Austin, Texas. And we actually met in Leadership Women's America program, where they took us to 3 different cities across the U.S. and we learned a little bit about the infrastructure and the communities and the good work that people are doing. So cool. If you haven't heard of it, definitely look it up, because that Leadership America program, I mean, I came out a different person, I feel like.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Agreed. It's definitely life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
In more than just a professional way, too.
Right. Yeah.
This is great.
It's super cool because you get to meet women from all different industries. You know, typically when you go to a conference, you are within your own, you know, like I'm in transportation, I would go to a transportation conference. I'm in the IT side of transportation, so I would go to an IT conference, or, you know, things like that. And the Leadership America, it was people from banks and Pepsi and, you know, like
anything and everything you could think of.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely great connections with, you know, women from all over the nation, all, you know, all industries. It was great.
Mm-hmm. So class of 2025, best class ever.
What kind of like common themes did you find with, or connections with, the other women leaders who were from other industries?
I mean, I think a lot of it was that we have all the same struggles, right? But it doesn't matter the stage of life that you're in. You know, some women had younger children, some women had older children. Whether we connected on some personal levels or even professional levels, I think that we all tend to go through some of the same things and challenges, just at different times of life. You know, like my children are grown, so I couldn't necessarily relate with some of the, you know, current issues of child rearing, but we had our own issues, right? So some of it is relatable in that way. And then professionally, I think we all, as leaders, kind of encounter women leaders, especially. There's a lot of industries, not just transportation, where we are the only women in the room, and so there was some discussion about that at some point. So yeah, it just makes you realize that we're all sort of going through the same struggles, and we just have to kind of lean on each other and get that motivation to say, you know, we got this. We got this. So, yeah, very inspiring program for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So this whole tollway thing, I went down a rabbit hole, right? Because I knew we were going to talk today, and I was like, I don't really know much about tollways. I'm born and raised in Oklahoma, which has a ton of tolls. I mean, really. So I grew up on tolls, but they were just, you know, the things that you drive through, that everybody uses, that you drop your coins in as you drive past and see how quick you can do it rolling down your window, because now it's all stickers and different, you know.
Yeah.
And we don't have as many tollways where we live now, but I was so fascinated to find, I mean, tollways have been a thing since the beginning of civilization, right? Yeah. I actually found a reference to tolls, or kind of sort of, in mythology, like going back to the beginning of time, and the river Styx, people would have to pay a toll to cross, and that's like the oldest reference that I found.
That's pretty good.
Right? Yeah, fascinating. And in America, it goes back to like the 1600s or 1700s, you know.
Amazing.
Right, yeah, just things that you don't think about. So I am happy to have the expert on.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I would definitely not go that far. But I could tell you my perspective. And, you know, I didn't I didn't grow up saying like I want to get into transportation.
Nobody does.
I didn't grow up saying I want to get into the tolling industry, any of that. But I am so thankful that I did. When I joined the RMA, I joined as a receptionist of the RMA. At that time, we were downtown Austin, and the world was completely foreign to me. Like you said, my previous employer was in Leander, so we did have a single toll road that went through that city, and that was really the extent of my knowledge about toll roads. I knew that there was one there. Occasionally I used it. Most of the time I didn't because it was expensive. And so that was it. I just knew if you drive through it, you have to pay and, nothing else. But slowly I started to learn, especially at being the receptionist, I got to talk to different people that came in, hear about different meetings that were going on, projects, initiatives. And at that time, the agency was very young. It was 2011. And so we had, I think, one full facility that was open to the traveling public. At this time, we have 6, almost 7. So obviously, we've grown quite a bit in the 14 years, right? And so I feel pretty lucky to have had the ability to see that growth within the agency. And also, I have been lucky enough to grow with the agency. And so it's kind of cool. It's like I moved into the operations department less than 2 years later because I was bored out of my mind as a receptionist. And I kept telling everybody, please give me work. Like I will do anything, whatever you need, I will do it. And so the operations department, being one of the busiest, would keep me busy. And after a while, they said, well, we're going to make a position. Come on over. And so I started learning a lot about the operations, transaction processing. Along with that, even though we have vendors that help us with a lot of the transaction details, there were still instances where we had to get involved with, escalations, legislative requests, some public information requests. And so I kind of delved into that world a bit. And then you have the not so pretty side where you have folks that don't pay their tolls, right? And so at that time we were prosecuting against some of those folks. And so I had to represent the agency in court at some of those precincts. So when I tell you, like, I learned so many aspects of the operations side that kind of helped set up the beginning of like the knowledge that I was going to learn. It was kind of scary at that time, but when I think back, it was great because we were so small enough, right, that it was manageable to learn these things. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we slowly started to open, we slowly started to open more roadways. And so therefore that just equals more work, right? More transactions, more of everything, escalations. And so it just kind of started to intensify. But years later, we opened an express lane. So the MOPAC Express Lane opened in 2016, and the opportunity came up for, we were going to open a traffic center. And really the main reason was because of the express lanes, because it was a dynamically priced corridor and we needed to have visibility. And so that opportunity came up that, hey, we're going to open a traffic center. Are you interested in managing it? And I said, absolutely. I was thrilled. And so that's how I got into my current position. So I don't want to go too much in because I can keep going, but I'll stop there.
So, like, think about your time with the authority, and when and how did you know you were a leader there?
I think it was when I transitioned to the traffic center. I think when we started those meetings, very early on meetings about, SOPs, what did that look like? The staffing, we're sort of preparing for, really it was an unknown world at that point for us, right? We didn't have a traffic center. And so the way that we kind of went about it was we already have all of these region partners that are doing these things, in the region. They're already responding to incidents. They're already tracking incidents. They're already trying to detect or maybe respond to customer inquiries or like reports of incidents. So what we wanted to do was come in and say, okay, how do we fit in? And really, how can we help everybody? And so that was sort of our approach. It wasn't just like, we're here and you're going to do what we say. It was more like, we're here and how can we help each agency that we're going to come in contact with? And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And I feel like that is the moment where it was like, okay, I need to engage and I need to help make some of these decisions. And honestly, the one thing that I can say that has helped me to make good decisions is at the end of the day, I always think about how does this benefit our travelers, right? What does this mean for our traveling public? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it anything at all? Are we really wanting to do, X, Y, Z? And so, yeah, that's really always at the top of my mind when we're talking about projects, demos, pilots, whatever it is. What does it mean for our traveling public? That's
awesome. Yeah. I in my exploration of Tollways, I saw a lot of people talking about the decline in revenue from fuel taxes with the move to electric vehicles and people just traveling less, more remote workers and things like that, talking about how tollways are more than likely going to increase. Like as a nation, we've had ebbs and flows in the tollway support that we've had.
Yeah.
And now that's what people are looking at as a potential, way forward to continue to support our transportation infrastructure through, I don't know, right?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of discussion, and there's been a lot of discussion about that for years. For our agency, we don't rely on the gas tax at all, right? We don't get any of that. We do have bonds that for each of the projects. For example, I know that the Mopac Express Lane, we still have, I don't know, and I am not in the finance department, but we have an outstanding amount. We have an outstanding loan. So when you talk about revenue, there's a lot of misconception about where our money comes from, where it's going. And I think that that's a pretty big part of how we operate. If you look at our facilities, if you look at all of this is on our website, it's open to the public, very transparent. But we're talking about repayments of loans. We're talking about maintaining. We're talking about making sure that we're looking at the life of like our towing equipment, even, the roadways, some of them have to be resurfaced. Mopac's a good example. We opened in 2016, the express lane. We're going to have to look at, I think it's next year, repaving that facility. That's not a small feat. You have to budget for that. And we budget that for years. And so there's all of these different things that I don't think people really think about. And we really want to preserve the integrity of our roadways, and we want to make sure that's just one of the biggest things. I don't care what department you talk to at the agency. Everybody wants for the traveling experience to be a positive one, and so we all take pride in what we do, whether it's roadway maintenance or the engineering department with the designs, and then of course traffic management. Like that is our job. Really making sure that you have a good travel experience. And so yeah, that I think is probably the biggest topic that has been consistent, right? And it's, to me, I drove a toll road to get here, I live in Georgetown.
Get free tolls?
No.
That's what everybody used to ask me when I started in transportation. Do I get free tolls? I was like, I wish.
No, especially not when I'm driving the TxDOT toll road.
Yeah.
It's the TxDOT one. So, but, all that to say, it's an option, right? And I'll tell you, this morning when I mapped my route here, my map told me that it would be shorter or fastest to get here taking I-35. I am not taking I-35. I am not doing that. So I jumped on. It took me a couple more minutes. Jumped on, the toll facility and got here. It's a choice. It's a choice that you make. There are times where maybe you're not in a hurry and you don't mind, taking the longer route, or you don't want to pay because it's not cheap. I don't take it lightly. I'm not just driving on all toll roads either. And so just to have, I think, that option, especially in this region, I think it's huge. Also, the biggest thing to me, and I think I saw this mostly when the Mopac Express lane opened, was the amount of traffic that is taken out of the general purpose lanes that go into the express lane. That also benefits the general purpose lane, right? And so while the folks that are in the general purpose are not paying, they still see a benefit. You're taking those vehicles out of those lanes. And that's the same for any facility. If you think about it, if there's a frontage road, then that means that those vehicles on that toll facility are not on the frontage road. And so it is a benefit, I feel, for everyone, but at the end of the day, it is an option. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I would like everybody to remember.
I think it's really true. I mean, it's funny. So, here in Seattle area, for my husband and I to move around, we use Waze all the time, right? The Waze app. And you can set it to different settings. And one of them could be, do you want it to be no tolls or do you want to have tolls? And I like what you said, that it is an option. It's a choice, and you can change your driving experience by using tolls. And I think that it really is a different experience. We like the tolls. We use them whenever we can. We use toll roads because we just find them a much more pleasant drive for the most part, compared to, like you were saying, the general use roads. And we just don't run into quite as many big rigs. It doesn't feel quite as squished together with all the other vehicles and stuff. So there's a little bit of safety feel there too. So, if you think about the service that you're providing an option. What else do you think are the benefits of having toll roads and having these options to drive different ways?
I think the biggest thing is safety, right? But reliability in this region with your commute is something that, where can you ever say that you have a reliable commute on a regular basis? Unless you have a plane. And even then, right, with what's happened recently. But to have that reliability to say, I know that if I get in, and not to say that we don't have incidents in the express lane, we do, and things do happen. But I do think that with us being so proactive, we do a really good job of identifying and then getting it cleared as quickly as we can. So, but to have that reliable commute on a regular basis is invaluable. I don't know about you guys. I think post-COVID, a lot of our work schedules have become a little more lax, right? Maybe folks are going a little bit later, or maybe they're hybrid, whatever the case may be. But it's not just about work. It's most of the times, most of us are trying to get to things in our personal lives, right? Whether it's our kids' daycare, who you cannot leave your child after 6 p.m. Because they charge you extra, or a sporting event or a performance. I think most parents can agree those are the things that really count, right? That really matter. And to be able to have a facility that can get you where you need to be quickly, on time. I think that has to be at the top for sure, as far as benefits go.
So this is what keeps going through my mind when I think about toll roads. And I don't remember what movie it is, but there's a movie where the people are trying to drive through and they're going to go through the toll and they flip a coin up in the air and you see it tumble through the air and then it lands in the little cup for the, to pay the toll. And tolls have really changed. I mean, now for us, our car, we have a little reader on the front license plate holder, and the little blue light flashes and the camera takes the picture, and that's how they check the tolls. Where do you see the kind of the whole, just the process of using toll roads or expressways and collecting the fees? Do you see it becoming more and more digital and electronic? Do you think we'll ever have a time when we go back to you're actually handing over the cash? Or do you think, is there one that you like better than others? Give me a little bit of insight into the scoop of where tolls are, where the toll industry is going, and what we might expect to see in the future.
So I don't want to speak too much out of my realm because I'm not in that world anymore, but I do hear, from my colleagues all the time. I know that they're constantly looking at, so there's two things really that are happening. One of them is the existing way to pay, the transponders, what they call them. They're working on making those more inoperable, right? So that means that you would be able to travel outside, maybe nationwide. That's really the goal, right? Is nationwide interoperability, and that's something that is constantly being worked on. There's a whole organization that has been working on this. Not an easy thing if you think about it. Nationwide interoperability. Currently you can use your one tag here. There's a lot of other, depending on the tag, there's some interoperability that exists with some other states that are within the United States, but it's not completely nationwide yet. So that's one of the things. And then, each agency, because for us, I can tell you, we don't issue a tag per se. We don't have a transponder, but we accept them all. And so we're constantly looking at other ways, right, to collect. So maybe, and I think there's talk of like us creating an app where eventually you would be able to go on that app and maybe pay even before your bill is issued. You put your plate number and you have the option to say, like, I knew I traveled earlier today. I put my plate number and then, hey, I can pay it now. I don't have to wait for a bill. It's out of, paid out of mind. We're good. Mm-hmm. For those that choose not to have a transponder, I don't know. Or maybe you have one and you still want to do that. And, so I think they're constantly looking at how do we reach as many people as possible with the payment option. And so I think apps are a very popular thing. They seem to be, they're looking at, even when you receive your bill, for those who choose not to have a transponder, you get pay by mail. There's already a lot of different ways to pay, but yes, keeping up with technology and just being aware of like, what does the public prefer, and kind of meeting them where they are. And it's probably going to be a combination of things, right? Because you don't have, everybody doing the same thing with anything.
Yeah. I feel like it was like 10 years ago that I heard that some law was passed that we were all going to go to interoperability for RMA passes. And then it never happened. And I don't know what happened with all of that. But I was blown away when I saw how many regional mobility authorities there are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's blown up for sure. Yeah, and that was supposed to be done. The interoperability piece, nationwide interoperability, was supposed to be accomplished by 2016.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of how complicated it really is. Yeah. So yeah, it's still an ongoing effort. I know that there's been some headway, and because I've heard of all the different states that these tags are interoperable with, but it's not 100% nationwide yet. So. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely. I think it's exciting. I mean, I think it really is where we need to be going. I think about all the times that, I'm driving across different areas in the state or driving through different states. And I always wonder, okay, am I covered for this toll, or what do I have to do to make sure everything's taken care of? And the idea of that we have the technology now that possibly one size does fit all in one way, right?
Yeah.
Makes
Not to even
life
have
a
to
lot
think
easier.
about it, right? That would be nice.
Yeah.
That's you never know. It's not like it says when you drive onto a road, oh, this is the Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority road. You have no idea. Like,
we have some signs, but they're like that small at the end of the facility. Yeah. But no. And honestly, customers really shouldn't care, right?
Yeah.
They really shouldn't care whose road is what. At the end of the day, it would be awesome if they just drove. They know it's a toll facility. They know they're going to have to pay. If they have a transponder, it's automatic. But yeah, to just be able to do that seamlessly without even worrying about it, I think that's the goal.
Or if they have a complaint, which one do they call? Like, do you guys get complaints for other toll authority issues? Yeah,
of course. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That goes along with, I mean, that's just part of the business, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
We were in Michigan earlier this year, and I can't remember the name of the bridge, but there's a bridge that's a toll bridge, and it has, like 8 lanes, and everybody's moving along, and then all of a sudden just comes to a halt because they don't have the electronic reader at all. So even if you had a transponder, it wouldn't be able to pick it up. It was, and they actually had, these 2 lanes are cash, and the rest of the lanes are credit cards, but you had to stop and pay to get on the bridge to get across the lake. And I was thinking back, it actually reminded me, when I drive here in Washington State, I just don't have to stop for anything. That's part of the beauty of the new ways of using toll roads, is that it does allow for a smoother ride. And that's kind of what prompted the question. Is when I was there in Michigan, I was thinking, wow, I mean, we were probably in line for half an hour, right? Waiting to get onto the bridge and go across where the tolls. Yeah. So I can see where some people might go, oh, this is not this isn't the industry I want to get into, because there may be some irritated people who are clients, right? So what would you say? I mean, how would you encourage people to think about the authority as a career path, or as an opportunity for a job, the purpose, kind of a fulfilling job, if you will?
Yeah, I think it depends on what it is that you're trying to do, right? If you love technology, it's a great field to get into, especially if you want to learn about transaction processing, right? The life of a transaction. And it really is an incredible thing to learn. It's not as simple as people believe it is, right? It doesn't just happen and then that's it. It's over. I mean, the life of a transaction is pretty intense to watch, like what happens. Yeah, if you have a transponder and you have money in your account, then yes, it's pretty simple. We're going to just, charge your account. But if that's not the case, then it just takes this whole nother route, right? And so if you're interested in the technology piece and learning about that and how the different technologies lane side work to help make that the life of the transaction flow as it should, it's a great field to get into. But even beyond that, if you the customer service piece of it, to help customers sort of solve a mystery, right? We'll get an inquiry that says it could be anything. It could be I was charged incorrectly, or whatever the complaint is, and to be able to investigate that exact transaction and show the customer, well, no, you weren't charged, duplicate. This is your vehicle. It's showing at this time. So it's kind of cool to delve into that piece of it and help people kind of understand how things go. And of course, just the wins. I said it earlier, and I really feel this, that I think that most of us that work for the Mobility Authority, we really are proud of what we do, and we really understand that it's a service that folks are paying for, and they do expect sort of a higher standard when they're driving our roadways, and we know that. And so we want to live up to that. And I think that is, if somebody that is out looking for a job and really, cares about what they do, it doesn't matter what part of it you do. Everybody plays such a pivotal role at the end of the day, in that customer experience. And so I think that's a great reason. And of course, the people that work there, we have, I've been there 14,
pretty great.
I've been there 14 years. So it has to be something, something's got to be good there. But truly, I've been surrounded by really good people, and I think the culture is positive, very uplifting. There's very just, I think people are very much in control of their own destiny there. There's a lot of support, and if you want to do something, you express that. You feel like they believe in you, and they push you to that. So that's a really big part of why I've stayed, for sure.
Transportation in general, if you distill it down to its foundation, is about connection, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a similar theme across transportation industries. Is people care about what they're doing, the impact that they're having, just good people, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I have a question for you, believe it or not. I'm just curious. So, you have a really fascinating journey that you've been on in your career when you think about what you described about when you first started and then moving up through the organization. And, what we all know is a pretty male dominant industry, right? Transportation on average is like 75% male, 25% female. And you talk about the people and how great it's been working with people, and the culture and the purpose is fulfilling. What are the tips that you would give people, or what's some of the experiences you've had that could help other women who maybe are interested in looking at a career that they want to be successful and be able to move into different areas in the transportation industry? What tips would you share? What stories do you have to give us some insight into what it's like to survive and thrive?
Yeah, I think it's not really much different than any other field. I feel like even if we're not outnumbered, I think that we as women are always going to face just different challenges than our male counterparts, right? We're more hands-on with our children. We're more hands-on, most of us, with our households. We seem to be sort of the one that keeps it all going. And that, I know that to be true for the majority of women that are in my life. And whether it's professionally or personally. And so I would say learning as much as you can from your colleagues, right? Really, for me, I think that I can't say that I had a mentor, but I can say that I had a sponsor. And I've talked about this several times before, where my previous supervisor or boss who has retired, he was in the industry for, 40 years or 40 years plus. And he was very much my sponsor in the way that he spoke good things about me when I wasn't in the room. And I didn't know this, I didn't know this for a long time. He was a man of very few words. He did not, email you extensive emails, or, it was very much, a lot of it was direct. It was in person. But he was so knowledgeable and had no issue sharing whatever knowledge he had. And so being around somebody like that, who is so knowledgeable and isn't afraid to share, and then at the same time is championing you, like it's hard to come by, and I know that not a lot of people are gonna have that in their work environment. But I think that, along with just surrounding yourself with like-minded people, that care, because it can be easy to get caught up in the negativity. And every workplace at one time or another is going to have it, right? I've been there 14 years. Yes, we've not been perfect and it's not always been great, but I think just keeping in mind like what you're there for, and then keeping that passion for your position, your duties, your job, those who look to you, and then maybe being that sponsor or mentor for somebody else as you progress, in your role. So
That's what I was going to ask you. So has that idea of sponsorship versus mentorship, has that changed how you show up for your people, based on like the example that he set for you, and now you see what that has done for you, internally as well as externally?
Yeah, I think being in tune with those that you work with, right? Because not everybody needs the same thing from you. And I think that's the hardest part when you manage folks. We recently direct hired our operators. So previously it was a contract situation, and so they were not our employees. In August, we decided, you know what, we're just going to post the positions. They all interviewed. We brought on almost everyone and hired 3 new people. And I think learning everybody's personality, what they need from you, because there are people that don't want a mentor. You can't assume you can't just come in and be like, I'm here, I'm ready to mentor you.
I'm going to mentor you.
What do you need? And they're just like, oh. So, and it's very true with my group. There are, folks that definitely thrive off of that interaction. They're very hungry. And then there are folks that aren't, and that is okay. I don't think that there is a good or bad or a right way to move about in your professional life. But I think just being available, easy to talk to. And then for me, I like to learn about them as much as I can, because I really do think there's so much to learn from everybody. And so that makes us a stronger unit. And then you start to learn like, okay, our interactions are positive, they're welcoming, they're reciprocating, whatever it is. And that continues on, right? So just sort of being in tune, I think, is a really big thing.
Something else I know about you is you take a very proactive role in your own growth and development, right? Like you did this Leadership America with me. You had done Leadership Texas before that. Mm-hmm. You have another leadership thing that you're doing next year, you said, right? And can you tell a little bit about what that does for you and what has brought you to that point where you're being so proactive about your own development?
Yeah, I can't say that I've always been that way. It's kind of interesting that we touched on like having different perspectives on personal growth, right? Like, I think that earlier in my career with the Mobility Authority, I was not as hungry. I was, my children were younger. I think my focus was raising my kids and sort of getting by in a sense. And I think as they've gotten older, I enrolled in college and I really started thinking, how can I continue to develop myself to be, to still be valuable, right? I think that, I don't know if this is a common thought, but I think as we get older, we definitely start to feel like, okay, we have to keep up on technology. We have to know what's going on. Like, I don't have a 14-year-old at the house anymore that, is teaching me the newest about technology or whatever. Like occasionally I'll get a little conversation here and there about what's happening on TikTok, but none of it is really that smart. So, you kind of have to do it yourself to some extent. So I think that's really where it comes from, is like, I felt like the stage of my life where I had kids that were so dependent on me was over. And now it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And it's for me. And so going back to school and then really taking a more active role in like, I need to, enroll into these things to help me develop, as a manager, as a leader, and where do I want to take this, right? thankfully, my agency has agreed, and they sponsor me for pretty much anything that I choose to go to, and that really in itself is pretty empowering. Mm-hmm. But I've learned so much through these programs that it really has been life changing, and it has given me so much confidence that I didn't have before. And the main thing that I've taken away is like, I belong where I am, right? That sense of belonging, like this is where you're supposed to be. That has really changed. My thought process on that has changed completely. Mm-hmm. So whether it's a room full of men, which is the case a lot of the times, and I'm the only one in that meeting, or if it's leading, my group of folks, like that's where I belong. Mm-hmm. So it's been awesome.
So something else that I already know the answer to, but I want to give you an opportunity to say it because I think everyone could benefit, is how you refill your cup, how you stay.
Oh, I can go on for days on this.
I love your answer. I've heard it before when you were presenting.
Hands down, it's my grandchildren. So I have 2 grandchildren. They're 4 and a year and 8 months. And 100%, I mean, the time that I spend with them is, it's like re-energizing. It's, I've never been more in the moment, which I tend to be in the moment a lot with my friends and family. I forget to take pictures all the time because, we just came back from Dallas, visit a bunch of family, never took a picture. I mean, I do that a lot, but I think with my grandkids, it's on a whole nother level. It's literally whatever it is that they want to do, right? They want to go in the playroom and just play for 2-3 hours. That's what we do. They're hungry. All right, let's make you some food. What do you want to do? Let's watch some whatever it is that's on right now. Gabby's Playhouse. So when they leave, I am exhausted, but it just feels like it puts so much into perspective about life. And so, yeah, it definitely refills my cup for sure.
Well, I had no grandchildren yet, so I got to find something else to let me live in the moment. I think that's really fascinating, and I think that's a key point is, finding that your path into how do you integrate your work life with your personal life, and how do you keep yourself healthy mentally, physically, emotionally. How do you find those things like grandchildren that can energize you and keep you going? And I think it's just as important to find rewards in our work life as there is in our personal life. What are some of the rewards that you feel from the work that you do?
I think that leading a group of people that not these, I just feel so strongly that our group it's going in such a positive direction. Like we have a really good culture within our center, right? And I'm not talking about the organization or even the operations department. I'm talking just that traffic center staff. Mm-hmm. I think that's, to me, one of the biggest rewards is that they are happy in what they do, that they feel that they're contributing, that they feel that their work is valuable because it is, and that they feel heard with whatever it is. When they have concerns, complaints, suggestions, whatever it is, their feedback is invaluable to what we do because they are our front line, right? So for me, that's some of the most rewarding. Those relationships are very rewarding for me. I think I take a lot of pride in that, but beyond just my department, I think that the things that the agency is doing for the region, there's a lot of pride in that. When I first started working for the Mobility Authority, I never told people where I worked. There's always a stigma about toll roads, and the first thing people said is, I owe money to you. you guys charge too much for this and that and whatever. So there's a lot of negativity surrounding that conversation. And so I hardly ever would talk about it. And I think now it's completely different, right? Well, maybe because I'm not doing customer service anymore too, but, but no, I really think that, now that we have grown, so much and we're serving so much of this region, like, why wouldn't I be proud of what we've done? Like, we are doing so many positive things in the region. And again, taking so much pride in what we do. So yeah, that's a big win.
So, okay. So, did you have a question, Trish, or?
No, go ahead.
Are we good? So this is something I've been really curious about, because, I spent most of my time working in a DOT in Alaska, and tolls are not a big thing in Alaska. We don't have a lot of roads, quite frankly. And so we do a lot of aviation and marine travel, as much as we do road travel. And so what I'm really curious about is the partnerships. So do the mobility authorities partner with TxDOT or with, city DOTs or county DOTs? How do you coordinate all that? How do you know this is your road and this is their road and this is how all of that works? Can you give us some insight into how that all is coordinated? Because it seems like it could be super complicated.
Yeah. And I don't want to speak again out of my realm because a lot of that is the engineering department, right? And as far as how projects come to be and such. But yes, to answer your question, there is a lot of coordination with all of our region partners, including, of course, TxDOT. I can tell you that in my area, I keep hitting the mic, sorry. I can tell you that in my area, we have quite a few region partners, and so it goes beyond just transportation. It's law enforcement plays a really big part in our operation, and so I touched on it a little bit when we started. We wanted to come into this world and help, not just come into this world and say this is how we do things, and now you have to do what we do. Not at all. And so we made those connections with the different partners and made ourselves available. We offered tours. A lot of them came to our center, toured, got to see our technology, got to see our camera views, which are a big deal because we wanted to drive home the message that if we are contacting you about an incident, we have eyes on it. We know what's happening, and it is good information. And so I think after all these years, I think we've established that trust with a lot of these partners, and they know that we are proactive in what we do, and so we're not going to sit around and wait for a call. We're not going to sit around and wait for somebody to tell us something's happening. Most of the time, it's us telling them, "Hey, we found something," or "We need something," or whatever the case may be. But yeah, the coordination piece. I mean, we could never do what we do without our partners. I mean, hands down. I think we need each other. And so, yeah, we've established a lot, and we are regional. So we're talking a lot of partners that we are in constant contact with. So
follow-up episode. Can we take a tour?
Oh, you can always take a tour. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
I love field trips.
And right now we're in Cedar Park, but we did purchase a building off of Harbor Mopac area.
Okay.
That we're hoping to move into in about a year. So it'd be kind of cool for you guys to see like the before and after. Because right now we're kind of crammed in after hiring so many people. We now think back and we're like, ooh, we didn't think this through. But we made it work for now. But next year we'll hopefully be in there and a lot more comfortable. Yeah, we're excited.
Well, and that's right by your express lane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's more central too, right? It's more central to our roadway. So yeah, and our headquarters is going to go in there too. So yeah,
cool.
It's kind of fun. Have everybody together finally.
So Mandy, when you come visit, we've got a field trip.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm in. Let's do it. I'd love that. Yeah. Yeah, well, if you get any good pictures now, so we can do the before and after, be thinking about that, so we can share.
Not much to take pictures of, so we have plenty of those.
Yeah.
So, well, I am just fascinated because you mentioned, that I never would have thought that the RMA could offer a great field career for somebody in the technology field. I just never would have put those two things together. So it's like a light bulb came on. It's like, wow, that's a whole nother opportunity that I wouldn't have thought of. And I'm intrigued by the culture and the organization that you've described. It seems, really healthy. And I think people maybe wouldn't realize that it's a great place to be and a great place to be able to be innovative and to share your ideas and thoughts and be yourself, right? That you don't have to pretend to be somebody else to be successful. And I think more and more people are looking for experiences like that. So you've really opened my eyes to an opportunity there. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's 30, I don't even remember now, 35 employees, maybe less. I don't know. And yeah, the majority of folks have been there for, a while. But the IT part of it that you mentioned is funny because we do have an IT vendor, but I do think that even just the 30 something employees, they keep them pretty busy. Beyond just transaction processing, right? Like you have different needs for different people. Also, a lot of us are still remote. And so you have to have, the capability to be remote, be effective, run all your systems in an efficient manner. And so there's quite a demand for our IT department all the time. So we keep them pretty busy. Yeah.
So if you missed it earlier, Fabiola is at Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority.
Yes.
So you can watch for jobs there or at a regional mobility authority near wherever you are. Sounds like a great place to work. So I think it's probably time for the coin toss. What do you think, Mandy?
I think we're ready. Are you ready, Fabiola? So we have our coin. It's an aviation-based coin, and we'll flip it. And if it's heads, you have to answer one question. If it's tails, we have a different question for you to answer. You ready?
Ready.
All right, here I go. I'm going to flip it.
Love it.
And it came up heads. So
right.
The heads question is, what's the best life lesson you've ever learned?
That's easy. So my old, sponsor that I spoke about earlier, the one thing he said to me that never left my mind is never burn any bridges. Never. And he followed it up with saying, today somebody could be working for you. Tomorrow you could be working for them, especially in this industry with it being so small. And I've seen it happen many times. So it sticks out in my head all the time. Biggest lesson.
That's a good
Awesome.
one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure all of our bridge divisions would agree. No.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next thing we have is a photo to show you for transportation in the wild. All right. So you were talking earlier about, roadside technology. This is curbside technology. We have charging, electric vehicle chargers built into the curb.
Nice.
I've
not seen that yet.
Right? Neither had we. And we just thought that's pretty fascinating that so they're not taking up any extra space. It's all in the roadway.
That reminds me of, have you seen, and I don't want to mess up this term, but have you seen the technology that some of the agencies are, I think they're piloting them. I don't know if they're actually in production, but charges you drive.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So it's even,
Interesting.
I think that's to come.
Yeah.
But they basically install every so often, and so as you're driving, it's charging your vehicle.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah. I saw it years ago in a test environment, but not sure where they are with it now. Maybe it's something that's in Europe. I don't know. But I've not seen this. That's a pretty sleek design for sure.
Yeah, I think this is somewhere in Europe too. I don't know. Mandy, do you remember?
This is China, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it's China that they're doing this.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, kind of amazing.
We don't have any charging stations currently, but it's something that we have talked about installing at some of our shared use path areas. So not sure where we are with that, but yeah, definitely something that is in conversations, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and I think electric vehicles have been changing the world of transportation. I don't think they're done yet. What do you think?
No, definitely not done yet. Definitely not. There's so much conversation around electric vehicles, but also autonomous vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, while we see autonomous vehicles here on surface roadways, I'm pretty sure that highway driving is probably to come. And so
we have a whole fleet here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
I forget what they're called.
Waymos.
We have a whole fleet of those autonomous, like Uber cars that you can book in your Uber app, and then they just drive it with no driver, and they're crazy looking, and people come to town all the time and are like, what is this weird thing?
Yeah. So I got to drive one, I got to ride in one last summer in Arizona. So they had already, specifically mainly near the campus, ASU campus. That's where I stayed. And so I must have ridden it about 7-8 times.
Wow.
And the whole time I was there. And I have to tell you, I had a great experience. It was very positive, no issues. I purposely took it to the extent of the service area because it ended up being about a 30-minute ride. And just because I really wanted to see how it would do on a longer route. And it was great. Like, that's awesome. Zero issues. So.
Well, I'm going to be in Arizona soon, so I may have to try this out. That sounds
you definitely should. Yeah, they've been operating out there for a lot longer. So even in a little construction zone, it did well. So I was really impressed. Yeah, I was really impressed.
That's great. That's great. Well, if you have any, innovations or transportation related wild ideas that you want to share with us, please let us know because we'll add it in.
Yeah.
Always on the lookout.
Awesome. Yeah, we were saying there has to be some cool like gantries out there that.
Yeah, well, and even I was going to tell you, I have some future guests for you that might bring some of those innovations. Because yeah. So I'll share that with you guys.
Yeah, love it.
Great.
Yeah, and just a plug for that. If you have ideas as you're listening, we have a submission on our website. You can fill it out and send us whoever we need to talk to next.
There's a ton of stuff out there. So,
well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun for sure. Can't wait to hear more.
I think we're at a wrap. Hey, really nice to meet you. Can't wait to meet you in person.